Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs for today, that is 13th of April 2022. Welcome to all the participants. Thank you for answering these questions, the three questions. People viewing offline, please do ensure that you answer these three questions. I'll be posting them in the offline chats as well. Good evening all of you. Hi Netra, Kriti, your answer writing skills have definitely improved a lot in the last few months. I have seen this, I am witness to this. Ashish, so goes well for you as well. Good evening, Bhavani. Hi, Hima. Excellent as always. And Sam, good evening and welcome to you as well. Not writing, I understand, it's fine. So, what is the quote of the day? The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you who you are. How simple and simplistic this is. If we do not define our role, our goal, if we do not define what is our action for every day, the world will tell us what our actions are. And therefore, we must decide or we must dream what our actions could be. If we do not do that, then somebody else will guide us to doing what they want us to do for themselves. So, if you like this initiative, show some love through likes, comments and shares. Let's begin to understand what do we have in today's current affairs discussion. The first that we discuss is midday meal scheme. Now in controversy again. There was a controversy previously, another one this time. Rising stock of nuclear warheads being spoken of by Norwegian NGOs. And there is a TRAI recommendation on 5G spectrum allocation and reduction in prices. All these questions I had shared with you in the comment section today itself. The terms that we discuss are Vertical Engagement and Partnership Program, SFDR based propulsion, ID cards for Myanmar refugees, the Shin refugees in Mizoram, AVSAR scheme, helipad hockey, and something that happened in Ladakh region today itself. That was back in 1984, April of 13th. That was the Operation Meghdoot getting conducted. So let's begin this discussion. Questions, please keep posting. We'll keep talking about it. Tiyasha, Vikram, Kim, welcome to you as well. Midday meal scheme, the Poshan Abhiyan. Midday meal scheme in 2001, it was renamed as Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan stands for Prime Minister Poshan Shakti Abhiyan. Alright, Shakti Nirman Abhiyan. Alright. Now this scheme of midday meal originated in India years and years back. The first and primitive example of this scheme was under Municipal Corporation of Chennai, when, in fact, Madras that time, when under Britishers, people initiated a scheme where they could feed the children who were going to school. Post-independence, Tamil Nadu was the first state to have initiated a midday meal scheme, and after that it was Kerala, both the states. Slowly and steadily, many other states started to implement this scheme, and in 1995, the central government said that for the lower primary children, they will initiate a scheme, and through this scheme, midday meal will be given to school children. There will be a standard meal, and it will be given hot cooked food to all the children going to government schools or government aided schools, 1995 onwards. And later in 2007, this was extended to all the primary schools. That means lower and upper primary both, up to class 8. This was the scheme. A standard set of food was decided. What that would be certain ingredients which are necessary for child growth. For example, the idea was to ensure that 450 kilocalories of food to be given to a primary grade student up to class 5, and 700 kilocalories of food be given to a upper primary, that is up to class 8 child, and along with that some intake of nutrition in protein as well. So the items were fixed, the dietary items were fixed. For example, 100 grams of food grains, 20 grams of pulses, 50 grams of vegetable, and 5 grams of oil and fat. A little more encouragement for the students in upper primary class. This was the program envisaged, for which the central government gave certain amount and the state government also gave in certain amount. The amounts were 4.97 rupees per child per day by the central government, and 7.45 rupees for the upper primary classes. And the amount was to be shared between center and state. That means it is not a central sector scheme, it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Both the governments, they take part in sharing the expenses. In case the food transportation has to happen, in case audit has to happen, that will be done at the expenses of state government. This was the plan envisaged. Now, see, right now we have around 25 crore school going students. 25 crore school going students, and we have got around 4 crore of students who are studying in undergraduate college. And around 50% of this number, around 50% of the 25 crore students, they are studying in government or government aided colleges. Okay. And when they are around 50% in number, government or government aided schools, these students will be given the hot cooked food, hot cooked meal. And therefore, these students not only have a right under the scheme, but also have a right under the National Food Security Act. Under the Act, it has been clearly mentioned that school-going students in the government and government-aided schools will be given food. Regular audits are conducted, and there are various reasons why this scheme becomes very important for the government. One important hint is the National Family Health Survey, fifth only, the last year release survey, and we clearly discussed what are the statistics here. It is dismal state of affairs. 50% of students going through anemia. There are 20% students who are already wasted, and this number is not even decreasing. And around 35% students who are stunted. Stunted means the growth is not proportional to the age, and wasting means the waist level or the weight is not in proportion to the age, right? So these are the two important parameters, anemia, and that is why this scheme is necessitated. Now, the central government says that in case you want to add additional product, you want to give a banana, a chickpea, a local product, and it is of nutrition value, for example, an egg, meat, or anything else, you can do it, but you do it at your own expenses. This is what the central government has said to the states. States have been doing that, but then there are causes of concern. What are the concerns? And these are the causes of issues as well between the center and state and various issues. So what is the issue here is that the additional items which are given are milk, eggs, chickpea, fruits, right? Supplementary nutrition to add to the nutrition. But this is dependent on various factors. For example, if the state can provide fruit every day, they can do it, not a problem. But Arunachal is not able to do that. So they provide eggs, for example, eggs once a week itself. Similarly, the dietary requirements at different places are a little different, and that is why availability is also an important thing. Now, for example, in Lakshadweep, meat is served to students. Similarly, when we go to a state like Tamil Nadu, the serving of eggs also is in different form. For example, in Tamil Nadu, the egg is served sometimes with pepper, sometimes with onion, tomato, and sometimes with rice and pepper. Eggs is served like this. West Bengal also provides cheese and mushrooms to students, right? So this is the various way in which the states are providing various services. But then there are certain restrictions. For example, there are people of various communities, various castes, and there are religious inclinations, because of which people say non-vegetarian food should not be allowed in the midday meal scheme, right? So even when states like Andhra Pradesh, they want to provide egg, banana 5 days a week, chickpea 3 days a week, this adds to the nutrition. For example, Chhattisgarh itself, it realized that many students are not getting enough protein, and that is why it insisted on providing eggs also to students. But when there are political communities or social groups which are advising not to provide egg as a nutritive element, then what is the substitute? Fruit is a substitute. Along with that, other substitutes like milk is also possible. But then this is the situation, and that is why there are causes of concern in the country. All right. So what are the various factors which determine what should be given to students are apart from the availability, apart from the finances, it is caste rigidities, religious conservatism, regional differences, cost, health issues. All of these are factors. Availability are factors on providing the dietary needs of the student, right? So it is not the students who are determining this, it is possibly some social groups, political elements which are opposing this. Now, this is a recent controversy, but there was another controversy which was in sight just a year back. It was the times of COVID when students were not going to the school, and the government itself had proposed that they would provide food to the students not in the form of hot cooked meal but in the form of packaged nutritive packages. But then there are positives of it and then there are negatives of it. Some positives of it are, for example, industrial processed food provides accurate amount of nutrition that is required. It also can get delivered to the student. The quality will not get compromised, but there are issues as well. Issues are, for example, there will be hegemony of corporates. There can be illicit nexus between the government and the corporate bodies, and they would increase prices and the government will be dependent on these products later. Also, the children who are malnutritive, who are in complete malnutrition, providing them excess nutrition also will lead to further medical issues. So these were certain issues. We had discussed this the last year, just discussing them again. All right, so this is the first issue. And food menu, we have understood what is the food menu. We have understood the background of midday meal scheme, PM Poshan Abhiyan. We also understood its urgency and requirement, that is the malnutrition among students. We also understood the controversy and what is the solution is something that is very sensitive. All right, but then we understood the dietary changes requirements. Now that's where I realized that I must share a small piece of data with you. Pew Research, we've studied a lot about Pew Research based in Washington, USA, and they state that they conducted a research in India and they found that 8 out of 10 Indians, they prohibit the usage of meat in some or the other form. Prohibit does not mean they don't eat. It means that on certain days, on certain festivities, or they eat some specific kind of meat. So 8 out of 10 Indians limit meat in their diets, and 4 in 10 they consider themselves vegetarian. All right, I do have friends who call themselves vegetarian, but then they eat egg. And there are people in all throughout who sometimes say that they eat fish but they are vegetarians. So leaving that controversy aside, just that this is a research, just making curiosity get satiated inside your minds. The second update is about the nuclear warheads. Now, these are the nuclear warheads. There are two kinds of nuclear warheads. One that are worth being used, and the second one which are worth for disposing, because they have fulfilled their life obligations, and now if they were not used, it's very good for the world. Now they could be disposed of. See, there is a lifetime of everything. Lifetime of shampoo, lifetime of food, shelf life of food. There's also a shelf life of bombs. And if the bombs are not being utilized, they must be disposed of, discarded of later. How are they discarded? Oh, sometimes they conduct operations where they blow off all the ammunition below the ground, say 15-20 feet below the ground, and then cover the ground, and that's how they blow it off. But then nuclear disposal won't happen like that, right? So nuclear disposal will happen in very different ways. Now the world, there are research agencies, for example, Nuclear Weapon Ban Monitor, right? They have said that there is an increased risk of nuclear proliferation happening around the world. At this present moment, there are around 20,700 nuclear warheads, out of which the active warheads, which can actually be implanted on missiles, weapon systems, air, water, earth, wherever, are 9,400. And around 3,000 warheads are the ones which can be disposed of. But they are not getting disposed of. This is a problem. This is what they have found out. In fact, they have also found out that there are 9 countries which have nuclear nuclear missiles. So 5 are the P5 countries, the ones which are in a certain annexure of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, right? 5 countries: USA, UK, Russia, and France and China. And apart from these countries, there are 4 more countries: India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel. These 9 countries are the ones which are the most vulnerable, not reducing their nuclear stockpile. Along with that, there are 2 more countries which are at the vulnerable junction, after which they could actually become nuclear states. Which are they? They are Iran and Saudi Arabia. It's all because of the vulnerability in the Middle East region. Israel already being one of the states which is nuclear capable, so the other states are also around building the same thing. So they find the latent nuclear breakout capabilities in Iran and Saudi Arabia. Along with that, they say that not only these 9 countries and these 2 potential threats, there are 32 additional countries which are under nuclear umbrella. What is this umbrella? Now, this umbrella speaks about those countries which have had pacts with the P5 countries. For example, pacts with USA. In case anybody bombards them, then USA will back them with their nuclear force. So countries like Germany, countries like Switzerland, Norwegian countries, there are 32 countries like this, mostly the ones in Europe, and they have pacts with the developed countries. They also assist them while they go for logistical operations, while they conduct exercises, while they plan war strategies, nuclear war strategies. So these 32 countries, along with 9 countries, along with the 2 additional threat countries, these are the ones which are not ensuring that nuclear stockpile is destroyed. There was a treaty. That treaty is called as treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons. This treaty was negotiated by various countries, signed in 2016-17, came into effect in the year 2021, last year. The point was 50 nations should ratify this treaty. The people who have ratified this treaty had never had possessed nuclear weapons, right? So we have South American countries, Mexico, possibly South Africa, and a couple of them had nuclear weapons and they discarded them later. But then the major powers, they still have it. So after 50 states ratifying this treaty, the effect of this prohibition came into being. But then if the nuclear nations are not disposing of their nuclear material, then this is a danger to the world. And we have studied innumerable times that now USA, China, Russia, they are producing smaller bombs, smaller focused and nuclear bombs of small intensity. So this is the latest news about this. And here you people, I remember, had asked about nuclear warheads, right? Which country possesses more, India or Pakistan? It is Pakistan which possesses just a little more than what India has. 165 with Pakistan, 160 with India. And then UK 225, and then we have France and China around 300, and then we have USA possessing 5,500, Russia possessing 6,300 nuclear warheads, and we also have Israel and North Korea having here less than 100 nuclear warheads. How does it matter? Even if you blast one of them, and all, of course, these nuclear warheads can destroy the world multiple times over. So no denying that. Nuclear warhead inventories by country, total 13,000 plus warheads. The third update is on telecom sector. All right. See, I have pasted some of the data which was maybe a couple of years back, but then it still holds relevance. The data all the time talks about the kind of debt that the telecom companies have, be it Vodafone India, be it Airtel company or Reliance Jio. Either of them have some or the other debt. Reliance Jio doing far better than the other companies. And they've had to pay something called as spectrum usage charges. They've had to pay AGR dues. Whenever they earn something, they have to pay certain portion out of it to the telecom operator, to the government of India, right? So there have been a lot of dues in the past, and the government has also given them moratorium, 4-year moratorium on AGR dues and spectrum dues. In case they use spectrum and people use spectrum and they earn revenues, they have to pay back the dues. But then government has given them moratorium. Why is it so? It is so because primarily when the government started to auction the free availability of spectrums. See, spectrum is a natural resource available to everybody, but government says we own it, right? And then we will also charge. But government has been charging hefty amounts for spectrum allocation, and when this happens, the private companies will have to pay it. They have not been paying it, and that is why they are dues, right? So when they are dues and there is moratorium, what should we do? The next spectrum allocation, that is for 5G, it should not have that amount, right? So we will come to that as well. This has been a major recommendation from various telecom operators. The TRAI also has recommended right now that 35% less of spectrum charges allocation be done when 5G is allocated. See, there are multiple issues here. Not only that the companies have to fight a battle amongst themselves to gain customers, they also have to expand using infrastructure. So 4G infrastructure, 5G infrastructure, laying down of cables and those towers, all this is expenses, and the operational expenses, paying salary, dues to its users. This is a humongous cost, and marketing charges. Therefore, the government also has recommended, private bodies have recommended that the spectrum charges be reduced. All right. So right now, TRAI has said that there will be some. All right. This is another. See, have a look. 1.47 lakh crore dues, a total of AGR dues, and this has been postponed. Airtel has dues, Vodafone has dues. The government also needs to ensure that competition is retained between the organizations, right? If the competition is not there, if Vodafone India falls, there will be just two players. So government also has started to own stakes in private organizations just because it says that we will ensure to retain competition. So that is the status right now. Now, point being, government wants to help the telecom companies to protect the investor sentiment, investors. So because of this, government has said FDI limit is 100%. Everybody can invest in India as far as telecom companies is concerned, to protect consumer choice and interest, right? And that is why they have started to help private companies. Vodafone, to save banking sector from vulnerability. Whenever Vodafone stock goes down, we see that many companies who had given payment or loans to Vodafone, their stock also goes down. It is just because the banking companies have also given loan to these organizations, these telecom organizations. In this time, therefore, it is mandated that the telecom charges in the form of the new spectrum allocation should be reduced. The private agencies, companies had said that there must be at least 50% reduction, at least. In fact, there was a demand of 90% reduction from the times of the last allocation. So for 1 megahertz of allocation, the charges that were being asked for were to the tune of 500 crores. See, it says 490 crore per megahertz for pan-India 5G allocations. And the idea is the demand is to cut it by 90% so that the telecom companies at least are able to sustain themselves or at least pay back some dues, right? Otherwise, sustaining it will be very difficult. So right now, TRAI has recommended, see, it is not the TRAI. TRAI is an independent body, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, and they recommend these charges, what are the charges that should apply to Department of Telecommunication and then Ministry of Telecommunication. They are the one who decide on the final charges. They have recommended that there should be a around 35% cut in the spectrum charges this time. But in that, they have also added clause. For example, the allocation for 20 years will be there. In case spectrum is allocated for 30 years, then 1.5 times the charge will be incurred. This is one of the things. Then they have also asked for use cases from private bodies. We will cover that in one of the terms. They have asked for use cases of 5G. For example, what are the ways in which 5G can be used throughout the nation? So, service providers, telecom companies, independent initiatives, people themselves can provide solutions for what are the telecom solutions that can be used for 5G networking, right? And by the way, India's telecom charges are amongst the highest in the world, and that is why it does not invite FDIs also. So this is another reason why we should have lesser telecom charges while we speak of spectrum allocation. All right. So it is a good step ahead, but let's see. Government should not be exploiting the private agencies in the name of spectrum allocation. All right. This day in history dedicated to Operation Meghdoot. India had preempted, that means understood beforehand, understood in the year 1984 that in Siachen glacier, which was occupied by none during those times, Pakistan army could occupy these places. So they preempted their move, Pakistani move, and then under Operation Meghdoot, they occupied Siachen glacier, and this is a very strategic position from where the soldiers could see the movement of people, personnel, any activity happening around the region. And this is the reason that this operation was successful. It was carried out today itself, 13th of April 2019 and 1984. All right, this day in history. Okay, this is the program that I'm speaking of, Vertical Engagement and Partnership Program. This is one of the terms that we have covered today. Through this, the government has invited various stakeholders, for example, service providers, solution providers, partners, original equipment manufacturers, all the people, telecom providers, satellite service providers, to provide for various ways in which 5G could be used, right? Yeah, so that's it. Use cases. Use cases means providing services at homes, industrial applications, 5G for teaching, 5G for medical purposes, all of this. See, 5G services will be provided in close-knitted areas because they will need very high speed of spectrum, and they will be required for those services which are high-end, where we need immediate effects, operational mobility, and everything which is in a close proximal area, and therefore they will be used at places which have dense population, urban landscape, who can pay more. So use cases for those places will be provided by through this scheme, Vertical Engagement and Partnership Programs. India has successfully conducted in Odisha the solid fuel ducted ramjet booster technology. Right, so through this technology, India aims to provide for supersonic weapon, supersonic missile, in fact, supersonic rocket, that is the actual word to use, supersonic rocket to move from one place to another at very long range distances. Now, this rocket will be air to air and it will be able to intercept any target at very long range distances. The best part about this solid fuel duct ramjet booster is that with the help of solid fuel, it can boost for a longer distance. See, I had explained to you, I remember very clearly, that solid fuel provides a lot of thrust. It provides a lot of energy and which is contained in a solid form, that is dense form, and that is the reason that the rocket can move a lot of distance. Ramjet technology is the one with the help of which the air is compressed inside the engine. When the rocket is moving at a very high pace, the air is compressed inside the engine and that is used to burn the fuel, the solid fuel in this case. So this will be a very long range rocket, supersonic speed, right? So Mach 2 is possibly the speed, around 2400 kilometers per hour, and air to air missile interception. India has conducted this test successfully. That's the news. Next is Shin community. Shin community residing at the Indo-Myanmar border is one of the communities which is facing persecution. And the same community resides on both sides of the border. They have relatives in people residing in the Indian side have relatives in the Myanmar side, and people residing in Myanmar side have their relatives in Indian side. This is where the government of India has decided that they would provide certain registration cards for the Shin community who are seeking some level of protection in Indian side. So some identification of all these Myanmari people, so that we are able to serve them well, so that they're able to get located, and so that government keeps a tab on their movement as well. Right? So this is an update. India is not a signatory to United Nations Human Rights Convention, Refugees Convention. And when India is not a signatory, India chooses its ways in which it tries to help the people. So Sri Lankan refugees, India has helped. Myanmar refugees, certain of them have been helped. What about refugees from Bangladesh? Yes, helped. Refugees from Tibet, helped. Refugees from Afghanistan, helped. So India chooses a policy to help on the basis of the strategies that it adopts. All right. So this time helping the Myanmar refugees, Shin community along the Indo-Myanmar border. This is also an area of security implication. Indo-Myanmar relationships are very important, where Myanmar, USA has been asking Myanmar not to indulge in more of autocracy and to prosper democracy. This is not happening in Myanmar, and it has also warned India not to have Myanmar participate in BIMSTEC. Along with this, security implications along the border also indicate that the northeast area will be under some security threats. AVSAR, this is a scheme which has been run by the government. The name of this scheme is Airport as Venue for Skilled Artisans of the Region. Airport as Venue for Skilled Artisans of the Region. This is where the Airport Authority of India says that whichever airport it owns, it doesn't own airports in Delhi, Mumbai and bigger cities. The smaller cities that have airports owned by Airport Authority of India, there the SHGs, the self-help groups, will be provided some spaces where turn by turn they will take 15 days and they'll showcase whatever items they have produced. So items, for example, puffed rice, packaged papad, pickles, bamboo-based bags, artifacts, traditional craft, natural dyes, embroidery, all these weaved items which have got latest motif. All this will be present so that people can look at it, they can purchase it. This is how government is trying to promote the artisans. So AVSAR scheme, MSMEs, all right. They go. See, if you remember only 10, maybe 5, 7 of such schemes, your job is done. MSME development, manufacturing industry, all is done. You can also talk about forest-based industries, tribal development, scheduled communities development, all of it. So start looking at opportunities from just these terms. That's it. You will not have to remember anything. Now this is where we come to the case study section, where we talk about the helicopter hockey team. This is a hockey team from ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police, and they have participated in various national level games just because they could play hockey even in those terrains which were not designated for the terrain for them. So they played and practiced in Bastar region, where there is hardly any availability, Bastar region of Chhattisgarh, where there's hardly any availability of resources. In fact, they would practice on helipads. and that's how they were able to conquer feats in the game of hockey. So quite an inspiration, right? For the people who want to do things, there is no stopping. There is no stopping and there is no pausing. They would achieve their aims even despite of the hurdles. In fact, hurdles are the way they achieve their goals, and that's what makes their success sweeter. The same thing is applicable for each one of us, for you as well. And I commend you for your participation here. Let me look at some comments if they are here. All right. No comments. Hi Prabhavati, good evening, welcome. We are closing this session right now because we have just finished the case study section, but then we would quickly meet in the featured news segment, that is on the Prime Minister Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana and other initiatives which are under this scheme. All right, so we will see you in that video. But then yes, vegetarian, eggetarian, absolutely you people could relate to that. All right, so let's meet in the other video for the feature news for today. And if there are questions, my friends, please post them down in the comment section. I will get back to you. If there are articles you don't understand, if there are any issues regarding current affairs or otherwise related to UPSC, just type down and we will get back to you. All right. So if you like this initiative, show some love through likes, comments and shares. Let's meet quickly in the feature news video. Thank you for participation.